Welcome back to the deep dive. There's something really fascinating about the NFL offseason, isn't there? It's not just the big headlines, the flashy signings. It's this, like, incredibly complex strategic planning that goes into totally reshaping a team's roster. Every single move, every contract, it's all part of a bigger picture, a calculated step. And for the Jacksonville Jaguars, well, their recent moves, they show a real laser-sharp focus on filling some pretty critical gaps. So today we're going to zero in on one specific piece of that puzzle, veteran cornerback Jourdan Lewis. We're really digging into the main question from our source material today. Why is Lewis exactly what the Jaguars needed? And that question, it goes way beyond just, his stats or athletic ability. There's a really interesting layer of team-building wisdom here we want to unpack with you.
That's exactly right. Our deep dive today, it's all based on this really insightful article from Yardbarker. It was originally published on Jacksonville Jaguars on SI by John Shipley, last updated July 6, 2025. So pretty current stuff. And this piece, it gives us a great window into the Jags' thinking behind one of their biggest offseason moves. We're going to pull out the key insights from this source, really understand not just what they did, but, why it matters so much.
Okay. So, our mission is clear then. We're here to unpack the Jaguars' strategy behind this signing and explore what Jourdan Lewis really brings to the table, both on the field, obviously, but also off the field as a leader. Because this isn't just another transaction, right? It feels like a very deliberate strategic fit. And there's probably more to it than you might think at first glance. Let's dive a bit deeper here. The Jaguars' new regime, when they came in this offseason, they had a pretty specific plan for the rebuild. They knew, like right off the jump, that two critical units on their roster just had to be overhauled completely before anything else. Now, if you're listening, put yourself in that GM chair for a second after a tough year. What two units are usually like top of the list for a rebuild, foundational stuff?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it because, according to the article, the two units they flagged were, well, exactly those foundational ones, the offensive line and the secondary. And they went after the O-line super aggressively in free agency, signed 4 guys. 4, with the expectation that, two or maybe even 3 of them could be week 1 starters. That kind of action, it sends a message, doesn't it? They weren't just patching holes, they were rebuilding that foundation.
Okay, so O-line was priority 1, check. But the secondary was right there alongside it. But here's where the Jourdan Lewis signing gets really, really interesting. He wasn't just another new face for the secondary. Our source points out this fascinating detail. Jourdan Lewis was the very first player the Jags' new leadership. We're talking head coach Liam Cohen, GM James Gladstone, the first defensive back they agreed to terms with. And get this, he was on a deal that, at the time, was record-breaking for a nickel cornerback. Think about that. The very first DB they locked down for a key spot, and they make him the highest paid ever at that position. That's a statement.
It absolutely is. And what really stands out about making that commitment right away to Lewis, it's the quality of his recent play. The article hammers this home. The main reason he was brought in, he's fresh off what's described as perhaps the best year of his career. So this isn't about potential down the road. This is about getting proven elite performance right now. He basically cemented himself as, and this is the quote, one of the best nickel cornerbacks in the entire NFL just before they signed him. And that nickel spot, that slot defender, it's so critical in today's game against those shifty receivers. So being called one of the best, that speaks volumes about his current ability. Huge value.
Yeah, that on-field performance, especially coming off a career year like that, it's obviously a massive draw. Huge. But, often in the NFL, these big signings, they're about more than just a stat sheet, right? So beyond the talent, the recent production, did the article give us any insight into, the other qualities the Jags were really looking for? What was that maybe deeper, less obvious need Lewis was brought in to fill for this team?
Well, yeah, connecting it back to the bigger picture of team building, the Jags definitely saw something missing from last season. They specifically needed, and this is key, experienced leaders in the secondary who won't flinch in big spots. And that phrase, won't flinch in big spots, that's really telling, isn't it? It screams poise, resilience, veteran savvy when the pressure cooker is on high. And the source really emphasizes that Lewis and also the other free agent DB they brought in, Eric Murray, they are exactly who they targeted to fill that leadership void, that composure gap. It's about more than just playing coverage. It's about, commanding that back end, being a steady hand when things get chaotic.
And it sounds like the coaching staff is already seeing that impact, right away. We've got this direct quote from the Jaguars secondary coach, Ron Miles. He said this at the end of OTAs, the early offseason practices. He said, quote, "I already think that Jourdan, as well as Eric Murray, just being in our rooms has already helped."
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful, right? It means his influence kicked in before they even put pads on. Just his presence, his example in meetings, on the practice field.
Oh, definitely. And Eilis didn't stop there. His praise for Lewis really reinforces this idea of him being the complete package, the total professional. He went on to say he's got 9 years of experience playing at a high level. 9 years, that's consistency. He's a pros pro again, practices hard. He's been what we thought we were going to get. Now, that's not just standard coach speak. He's highlighting key things, that long track record, the work ethic in practice, and delivering on expectations. Think about what a pros pro really means. It's consistency, day in, day out. Accountability, setting the standard for effort. That stuff translates, Fewer mental mistakes, better execution across the board, and crucially, it lifts up the younger guys. They see that, they learn from it. That kind of player makes the whole unit better, and that's a big piece of why Lewis is seen as, exactly what they needed.
Okay, so let's unpack that 9 years of experience playing at a high level a bit more to really get the full picture. Levis, he turns 30 in August, so he's still got good years left. He was a third-round pick, came out of Michigan back in the 2017 draft, and he pretty quickly became like one of the recognizable faces on the Dallas Cowboys defense. That's a team always under the microscope, known for having defensive talent. So making an impact there early, that's significant.
Yeah, and what's really striking is just the sheer volume, the consistency of his time there. With one team, a major franchise, Lewis spent 8 full years with the Cowboys, appeared in 115 regular season games, plus 4 playoff games. I mean, that kind of longevity, that exposure to high-stakes football, that's invaluable experience right there. And his career stats, they really paint a picture of his versatility, his impact. Let's see, 10 interceptions, 44 pass breakups, but also 9.5 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles, 9 fumble recoveries, 386 combined tackles, 275 solo. Now, think about those numbers for a defensive back playing mostly nickel. 10 picks, 44 PBUs over 8 years. That shows consistency, sure, but also a knack for making plays, game-changing plays, whether it's breaking up a pass or even getting pressure in the backfield. He does a bit of everything.
That really is an impressive track record. Shows that long-term consistency, the versatility you mentioned. But let's narrow the focus again right down to his most recent work with Dallas, specifically that 2024 season, the year right before he hit free agency and came to Jacksonville. How did he look then? What did that immediate pass tell the Jags they were getting when they signed him to that record-breaking deal?
Well, his 2024 stats really underline why the Jaguars made such a big move and why our source calls him exactly what the Jaguars needed. In 16 games last season, he put up 1 interception, 8 pass breakups, a forced fumble, a sack, 3 tackles for loss, and 71 total tackles. Those are solid, well-rounded numbers, especially for a nickel corner who isn't always, the primary guy making every tackle. It shows he was still playing at a really high level across different areas, coverage, run support, even getting a little pressure. And these recent numbers, they directly tie back to that whole best year of his career idea. It shows he's not just some veteran coasting on reputation. No, he's a vet who's still performing at an elite level, maybe even improving his game as he headed into this new chapter with Jacksonville.
Right. So, okay, let's pull all of this together then. What does it all really mean for the Jaguars? And maybe more importantly, for you, the listener, trying to understand how effective NFL teams are built. Why is this specific blend, the recent top-tier performance as one of the league's best nickels, combined with all that veteran experience, that leadership stuff, why is that mix so incredibly crucial for a team like the Jags, trying to elevate their secondary, trying to become a real contender? It's clearly about more than just signing one good player, and it feels much more strategic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we summarize the core takeaway from this deep dive is that Jourdan Lewis isn't just, a talented player they picked up. He really represents a highly strategic acquisition by Jacksonville. He perfectly embodies that phrase, exactly what the Jaguars needed. He fills a very specific list of requirements, not just the skill, the on-field performance as a top nickel guy, but critically that leadership piece, that resilience, that won't flinch quality, his long successful run with Dallas, plus that recent career best performance. It just highlights his proven ability to play at a high level and be that pros pro you need in the locker room, on the field. He brings a kind of stability and experience that it goes beyond just making plays on Sunday. It helps build a winning culture fundamentally.
Okay, and as we wrap this up, let's leave you with a final thought. Something provocative to chew on. Given how much the Jags clearly emphasized Lewis not just as a great nickel cornerback, but specifically as that experienced leader who won't flinch, how might his presence uniquely impact their defensive schemes? Especially in those crunch time, high pressure moments where maybe they struggled last year, where poise is everything. And maybe think about the ripple effect too. What specific role could he play in developing the younger DBs on that roster? Is it direct mentorship? Is it just setting that professional standard day in and day out? What really stands out to you about how smart teams identify these very specific, almost nuanced needs, and then go out and precisely fill them? It's a pretty fascinating look at the real strategy behind building a winner, isn't it?